blasphemous. That is blasphemous. Day off the weed.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the Clock Podcast. As you see today, we're virtual. We got a special guest. He's not our guy, but today he's our guy. And going forward, Jay Jackson, coming out of Gainesville, South Carolina. I want to make sure I got all this correct. Played ball at Furman University, which is also in South Carolina, one of the oldest universities out there, I believe.
Yeah.
MLB, the guy plays for the Minnesota Twins currently right now. He's been in professional baseball since 2008. Looks like you were picked up by the Chicago Cubs, and you've bounced around a little bit, so you've got some experience as a veteran. My co-host told me journeyman is not necessarily the best word to use. I don't know how you feel about that. Some people don't like that word, he told me. But
it is what it is.
You've been in the game for a long time as a professional, man. And that in itself is that's tough, man. I mean, you're over a decade almost, or over a decade. What, 13 years?
17,
14 years?
going on 17 now.
Oh,
this is year 17 in the big league. I mean, in professional baseball, not the big leagues, but in professional baseball, you're 17. So sliding through ever so slightly.
Hey, as long as you can. If you can stay in it, man, that's really the tough part, man, and keep a job. So, but no, welcome to the show, man. We're glad to have you on, man, and discuss kind of your journey into the professional realm of baseball. I know you've made your MLB debut, looks like in 2015. You played in Japan, which we'd love to hear about that experience, man. I know that's got to be night and day different. But I hear baseball is huge over there. My co-host can speak more to it. He's our baseball insider. But yeah, man, we're just happy to have you on the show, man, and would love to get to know you better and allow our fans to get to know you, and hopefully this transitions into something else.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate it. You know what I mean? I appreciate being here. Again, I've been all over the place, I guess you could say. You know, it's been 17 years since pro ball. Like I said, I went to Furman in Greenville. I was born in Greenville, so I stayed at home just based off of just scholarship opportunities. I had more of an opportunity to play right away. Didn't have to redshirt, and a lot of guys, you know, nowadays they go wherever like the big names are instead of just going to play. Like my whole thing was, you know, my dad always told me like the scouts will find you wherever you go. So if you put up the numbers and you play well, they'll find you. So I went to Furman, stayed at home. My sister also was a big reason that she has Down syndrome. So I made sure I wanted to be close to home so my family could travel to see me and I could spend time with them. After Furman, like you said, 17 years of pro ball, man. Made my debut in 15 with the Padres, got lucky enough. And then right after that, bounced over to Japan for 3 years, came back for a year, and then went back to Japan during the COVID year, and then been back home since. So just bouncing around right now. Like you said, I'm in the Twins organization. Just living the dream still, trying to just make it, trying to have fun, trying to enjoy every day and just, you know, make the best of all these moments.
I always like to ask every big leaguer that I know, I like to ask them if sometimes you just find the story, but do you have a good, is there any interesting part of your big league call up? Anything happen? Any kind of crazy story on that or anything?
The big league call-up was weird. Like, our year that year was weird because, like, the Padres, if people remember correctly, that was the year, like, A.J. Preller's, like, one of his first years there. And he tried to, like, throw everything in and try to, like, win the World Series just by buying all the guys and stuff and trading for everybody. So they had, like, B.J. Upton, Justin Upton, James Shields, Kimbrel, like, all those guys, right?
Yeah.
So, like, our AAA season, normally most guys get called up. If you get called up at the end of the year for September call-ups back in the day, they'd call you up like first day of September, unless your team's in the playoffs. And we actually were in the playoffs that year. But the weird thing about it is like we had lost out of the playoffs for like a day or so, and nobody had gotten a call. So everybody was like, all right, like I guess everybody's going home. So most guys went home. I was in El Paso just like kicking it for another day because I was like, I'll fly out the next day. Like I'm just going to take some time to reflect on the year, et cetera, et cetera. And they called everybody after the season. Our season was over like the next day, pretty much. Luckily, I didn't fly all the way back to South Carolina and then have to fly all the way back to the West Coast. But like a lot of guys did. So while I was on the phone, I was actually on another phone call with somebody. I think it was my ex-wife at the time, and I was on the phone with her, and then I got a phone call from, I was like the player personnel guy. And I was just like, the hell's he calling me for after the season? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
season's done. Like,
You're
I'm
thinking,
a
oh
free
shit.
agent. Yeah, I was like, I'm a free agent.
Thinking he
I was
got
like,
bad news regardless.
yeah. I was like, all right, like, this is weird. So let me pick this up real quick. I picked it up. He's like, hey, want to let you know, like, how long's it been that you've been in the minor leagues, grinding it out? I was like, I don't know, like 7, 8 years. Like, I don't really
Yeah.
keep count of it. Like, I just kind of play. He's like, well, just want to let you know, congratulations, we're calling you up to the big leagues. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I feel like
That's
it's
really,
a couple
and
days late.
which people don't understand. Like 7, 8 years is longer than most. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
100.
straight up, like obviously some guys don't even get to last that long in the
Yeah,
minors. And then on top of that, some guys just straight up, you've probably seen it. I've had friends that just straight up quit. I have one friend that
oh,
he just
100%.
straight up quit just because he was tired of waiting to get called up. And I'm like, all right,
I
what? But that literally just happens.
So speaking of
Yeah.
that, like, what was that like for? Like, did you ever feel like like down on yourself? Like, what's that 7 years like? It's like, is it ever going to happen?
Oh,
Am I
man.
good enough? You know what I'm saying? Like, what? I see guys around me that are getting called up. I'm getting older. Like, what's going on here?
It's all different stories, right? Like, every time somebody else gets called up or you don't get called up, it's all a different story, or there's a different excuse. Your agent's talking to people. So 7 years, I mean, at the end of the day, I just had to just put my head down and get to work and just enjoy where I was at. Like, I tell people all
Yeah.
the time, like, I have to enjoy where I'm at and put my foot forward where I'm at, because if I worry about all the distractions of everything else, like, then I get caught up in that, and then my job
Right.
and my work suffers. You know what I mean? And that happened to me during those 7 years, like you said. Like, I see other guys getting called up. I have better numbers. I put up, I'm having better success at the time, and then I see someone else get called up, and I'm just like, all right, so what's he doing that I'm not doing? Maybe I need to do what he's doing, and I start focusing on not getting called up instead of just what I was previously doing, and then my
Yeah.
season started
Yeah.
cratering. You know what I mean?
Start
So. And like you said, like
you
you
start
see,
pocket watching and all that, man, and
yeah,
it starts
it
affecting
gets,
Yeah.
you. I
and
mean,
it gets
I
bad.
play. I don't know if you play golf, but I play golf.
Play golf a
and
lot, yeah.
Me and my boys have gotten real serious about it. And I got a partner who is adamant about beating me. Adamant. That's his main goal. And I said, bro, you're never gonna beat me because every time we go play, you're worried about how I'm playing. You're not worried
Exactly.
about your game. You're going in there focused on every shot that I take and trying to use that
100%.
to your advantage rather than just playing your game. Then eventually it'll work itself out. But like, let's go back to prior to 2008 when you did get drafted by the Cubs. Like, at what point in your career, was it high school, was it college, did you know that, like, I'm good enough to play professional baseball? Like, were there
I
some
mean,
signs?
obviously, all the guys that normally get drafted, like, they're always signs like you're the best one on your team, you're the best one in your city, like whatever else. But I knew in high school I had a chance my junior, senior year, because I was one of the top athletes in the county. And I wasn't really as focused on baseball. I was more of a basketball player, and I love playing basketball. So I was more focused on, like, okay, like, what school can I go to play basketball? And then when I did start seeing that, like, I wasn't getting recruited necessarily by all the teams that I wanted to and schools that I wanted to for basketball, but I was getting recruited for baseball by the same schools or even some other schools that I didn't think of that were just as good. I started being like, okay, maybe like baseball is the way, but maybe I can talk to these coaches and do both. And so I started trying to talk to coaches and try to play basketball and baseball, but I got a lot of interest for baseball, and then started talking to pro scouts. And then the reason I chose Furman, besides my family and everything, was because the head coach told me I might be able to try out for the basketball team and walk on my sophomore year, depending on how good my freshman year baseball went. So it gave Furman the one up for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, so I know. Sorry, did you have another question, Dominic?
No, go ahead.
I know you played with Justin Upton,
Yeah.
right? Did you play in amateur ball with him at all?
No,
No, yeah,
I just played with him. I played with him and against him in the big leagues, and then I
yeah.
played with his brother too, in the big leagues that year. I'm actually still cool with his brother. I talk to his brother more than I talk to him now, but like, yeah, I still talk to BJ every now and then. Like, yeah, they're good family.
Yeah.
I love them. Good people, man. I love them.
So
love us, man.
I don't know if you remember, because we were around the same age. Yeah, back 18 and under tournament, like one of the biggest ones was in Memphis. I don't know if you ever went to that one. Like it was a big 18 under tournament that, I mean, it'd be scouts all over the place. I actually played against Justin Upton in that tournament, but they had a black pitcher. So I'm like, wait, did we play against each other? Like I couldn't remember his name or nothing. Like I'm sitting here just like think like when you said Justin Upton, I was like, all right, hold on. Then that just like triggered on my mind that I mean, this dude, he was pretty filthy too, but he had like you don't have a knuckleball or not. He had a knuckleball, this black pitcher, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, is this him? Like what? Like,
we played up in Tennessee, but we never went to Memphis. We were in Knoxville a few times, and we were in Jefferson City a lot because for some reason I don't know why Jefferson City or Johnson City too. Jefferson and Johnson City, for some reason they have all the AAU baseball tournaments up there. It was crazy, but
Now this one was he actually had a dude on his team too that I like flew in, and then he flew in and then got drafted by the freaking Yankees like the next day. Like it was like I was like we just got, you know, all he did was just come in, strike out the side, then he left. And then we was like this dude, and then we found out like later on that he got drafted by the Yankees. We're like, okay, what the heck? But that was
just had to come
I was
to
gonna say
real
that.
quick.
Yeah, that was before like, you know, you saw that you had all the AAU teams flying guys in for like tournaments and stuff like that. Was you had a couple teams that would do it back in the day, but like now like, you see it all the time.
It's
kids
nuts.
pulling up just for 2 games and then like, oh, I got to fly somewhere else. Somebody's paying me to come over here too. Like,
It's almost like I feel like kids nowadays have not necessarily, but to a degree, lost the competitive nature of just sports in general. It's like this across the board, man. Like one of my nephew's best friends, he signed like $1 million NIL deal his senior year of high school, and so you could see it on the football field that he was like, I'm rich. Like I got more money than anybody out here. Like I don't need to impress anybody. I got a full ride going to this D1 school. Like I don't have to do anything. So it's just crazy.
And that's what it is. It's so different because I don't know if it's the competitive nature, but it might be like the love of the game now.
Yes,
like you know what I mean. For me, I feel like kids now are just trying to make a bag off the game instead of just truly enjoying the game. Like you asked me earlier about like how was the 7 years in minor league baseball? No kid today, I feel like, would ever try to stick through that 7 years. Now, when like you're getting NIL money before you get drafted, and then when you get drafted, you're signing these big signing bonuses or whatever else.
Yeah.
Like kids don't have to like, and now the minor league baseball structure of how much they're getting paid is so different. Where they're a lot more comfortable than we were when we were coming up, because you know you're trying to live off of $2,800 a month before taxes, and you gotta find a place to live. You gotta eat every day.
Bro,
I played a lot of guys had kids and families at that time, and you're making $2,800 a month, man. You can't,
I played indie ball. How do you think that was? Like my co-host, I had to stay with a host family and I was 8. You know how much Dominic, ever tell you how much I made down in Louisiana?
No.
$800 a month. A month.
Bro, that's wild.
It was,
but the thing is like
that's love.
To what you're saying, like you loved the game, and these kids, like you said, these kids today, I don't think they're not obsessed with the game. Like when I was growing up, I was obsessed with sports. Like we watched it, we emulated it. This is all we did. Now I think like you said, these kids, they go out and play. They're athletic and they do what they need to do, and then they just walk away and have whatever fun they need. So it's a lot, man.
I think the ones that are great, the truly great ones are the ones that you see love the game, and those are the ones that truly get the most money, though. And people don't realize that. They're like, "Oh, we can make it back. We can make $1 million off it." But if you love the game and just work on it and do what you're supposed to do, you can make $100 million or $200 million or $300 million. Still just $1 million. But kids, you know, you get satisfied with I'm rich now at 18. Like, hey, I got $1 million. I'm rich now. I'm good.
That's the beautiful thing about baseball, though, honestly. I mean, and it's like this in every sport, but I say more so in baseball, that raw ability is only going to take you so far.
Oh, 100%.
Like it's like you cannot excel in this game if you don't put in work. Like you just literally won't. And so a lot of times if you continue working, that's going to separate the great players from the people who are just out there.
Well, the window is so small too to make. I mean, you have 3 different divisions of baseball before you can even get to the majors. So I mean, you're fighting.
It's more than 3.
It's more than now.
So you're fighting for that, and then what is 20 man and then a 40-man roster. So I mean, it's like it's not the window ain't that big for you to take advantage of that opportunity.
It's 92%, man.
90. People get drafted every year too.
Well, yeah. And so back to the draft, like speaking of, like, I think maybe like a lot of people don't understand. I'm sure you do, obviously, and we do have a lot of friends who are professional athletes, whether it be NBA, NFL, MLB. There's a lot of misconceptions on how the business side of things work. So I'm sure when you got drafted, there was somebody out there that thought, oh, he just got a bag. Like he's set for life. He's good, not knowing that I'm about to have to go grind my ass off to even touch some of that. Like you said, $2,800. Yeah, I guess when I'm 18, that's not bad. Like that's not a bad living, but it's still tough in today's market. Like what would you say? Like what was your draft day like? I mean, were you
My
expecting
draft day was terrible, honestly. It's actually part of the story is going to be in the book that I'm writing right now. I'm actually in the process of writing a book.
Oh, nice.
But my draft day, I was projected to go in the first 3 rounds because I had a pretty solid junior year. So I was projected to go in the first 3 rounds. And so we had a draft party like most guys do when you're projected to go that high, right? So you're there, you got all my friends and family, blah, blah. First day goes by, crickets. So, like, I'm sitting there just disappointed, distraught, like, pretty much. I'm just like, you know what? Like, I guess I'm going back to school. I was scheduled to go to Cape Cod, and I pushed that back so I could watch the draft to see if I was actually going to have to go play in Cape Cod or if I was going to negotiate or not. And so when I didn't get drafted the first day, the next day I was sitting there, I was like, all right, like, I guess I'm going to Cape Cod.
Yeah.
I turned the draft off. I stopped watching it. I actually found out from one of from my high school friends that I got drafted. They're like, hey, congratulations, you're a Cubby. And I was like, what do you mean I'm a Cubby? And they're like, oh, you just got drafted by the Cubs. I was like, oh, really? I had to go online and like look and find out.
Like nobody called you?
But I think they had called me like, I think it was like an hour later, something like 30 an hour later. So like, I literally like looked online. I was like, oh, like, all right.
I feel like that may be a major difference in baseball drafts compared to others. Because like NFL, like they're gonna pick up the phone and call you. Hey, we're about to call you. We're gonna draft you. I feel like MLB I feel like MLB is the only sport where they draft guys that don't necessarily play baseball too. So it's just all across the board. They're just picking names out of a hat.
Well, I think in baseball, like if you get drafted in the first like 3-4 rounds, that's when they like call you and stuff like that. But then after that, like it varies because like people don't realize this. Like a lot of times they gauge your signability too, and your signability is like, oh, like if we don't offer you enough money, are you going to go back to school? And like they know that beforehand, and
That
so
makes
a lot
sense.
of times, like they'll know that, and so they won't pick you, or they'll try to change your mind or whatever else. But a lot of times, like too, like especially now, they don't waste draft picks on guys they think aren't signable because they have less draft picks and draft capital compared to back in the day when they had 40, 50 rounds. You know what I mean? Like people don't understand that too. When I was coming up, they had 50 rounds, bro. Like, so you had
That's
50 people
insane.
coming in every year too, trying to take your job, not alone
Yeah.
with 5 different divisions that before the big leagues, and you got 30 guys on each one of those. Like it's nuts, man.
That's why he's been a little modest, bro. Like the ninth round is still really good. Like basically, like saying if like you're top 10 rounds in baseball, it's pretty good in baseball. So
yeah, it wasn't too bad. Like, but the ninth round was that at that point, like when I was coming up, the ninth round was that cut off, like the last like slotted round. And then from the 10th round on, like you got to negotiate like based on like your prospect degree and like, oh, I'm going back to school, so you have to offer me more money. But like the first through the ninth rounds, like then were like the hard slots where you're like, all right, well we can only offer you like 10 grand more because if we offer you too much, we don't have slot room for our first rounder. Where the 10th round and after, they could offer you whatever because it didn't count against it for some reason. So after like the 5th round, I was sitting there like, please don't let me get drafted like before the 10th round, because I was like, at least in the 10th round, I can be like, hey, like I need like $500,000, like instead of like being stuck to like whatever the value of the slot was. But it worked out ultimately, right? Like I'm still playing. Like I stuck around. I saw a lot of guys that got drafted my same year, like you said, that got drafted earlier than me in earlier rounds, just quit. Like I saw guys in AAA that were top prospects, like literally probably the next person to be called up, just be like, all right, I'm done. Out of nowhere.
We had a couple guys that I went to school with, same thing. But also, some of those guys got a nice little bag, so it was like, at least I set myself up for a little bit of a future. We actually had a guy, I don't know if you know, well, he's not a pitcher, but his name's Monte Harrison.
I know
he's
Monte,
in the Marlins.
yeah.
So, and I think he was in, he's with the organization you're in right now. He actually he's going back to college to play football. So he's down in
he's
Arkansas
going to
now.
Arkansas. I was going to say, we just saw.
Spent 10 years, in the baseball, chasing up and downs of baseball. And now he's like, you know what? But he's so athletic, man. Like, he probably could get drafted. I think he really could get drafted. He was a five-star. He was a 5-star athlete in high school. So, and his brother's a damn good basketball player too. But yeah, it's crazy. So what about? So in 2015, you called up to the bigs. What was that like? Like, what was your first game like in the bigs?
Terrible. That was terrible too. Unlike most people who have like these unbelievable like first debut games and stuff like that, mine was trash. I was so nervous, and I probably like now looking on it, I understand why I was nervous, but I understand that I probably shouldn't have been as nervous as I was. But like, I think just the fact that it had been so long, and then I finally got there, like it got to me at a certain point. Like, you know what I mean? Like it caught up to me. And I think I gave up 2 or 3 runs and didn't finish the inning, but I got like 2 outs, and then one of my teammates came in and finished the inning for me. So debut was absolute garbage, hot garbage.
Where was your debut at?
In Arizona. We were playing the Diamondbacks. It was just trash. So that was the debut. I got my first strikeout though, so that was about the only good thing about that. But from there, I learned. I went to Japan and had a great time over there. That was probably one of the highlights of the career.
So how did that come about?
Literally, like, I had been trying to go to Japan for a couple years before that, but my agent was like, this was back then again. Like, this was so long ago. People don't understand. Like, people see guys going to Japan now without like big league time and all this stuff and being drafted and going straight over there. So, like 6-7 years ago, like going to Japan wasn't a thought for guys that didn't have big league time whatsoever. Like, they weren't taking guys unless like you had at least 2. If you had 2 days in the big leagues, they would take you. But like if you literally didn't have those 2 days, they'd be like, I don't think you're good enough to be over here, which is really random and weird. But I had been trying to go for a couple of years, and then I got called up finally, and I was actually playing winter ball in Mexico, and my agent called me and was like, hey, do you still want to go to Japan? I was like, if the offer is worth it, yes. Like, why wouldn't I? And he's like, all right, well, the offer is going to be, you're going to get league minimum. He didn't tell me the exact amount, but he's like, it's guaranteed more than league minimum, and you'll get a signing bonus. And I was like, yeah, I'm gone. I was like, bye. Wow. I was like, and he's like, and you're going to be either the closer or the setup guy. I was like, and I get to be like a key part of the team. I was like, yeah, like tell them I'm gone. Like, so he talked to the Padres, which people obviously don't understand the business part of this either. The Padres told the Japanese team no twice or 3 times before releasing me to let me go. So they like tried to hold on to me and not allow me to go over there. And then like one of the last times my agent was like, hey, like, what do you want me to tell the front office to try to like finally let you go? I was like, bro, tell them unless like they're going to keep me in the big leagues all year. Like they're costing me like a lot of money and my livelihood to not let me go over here. And I was like, I've been in the minors for 8 years. Like, bro, you got to let me go. Like, you're like hindering my career at this point. Yeah. And he went and I guess he told them that, and they're like, you know what? Like, we'll let you go. And so
I did read I looked at an article prior to like having you on, and that was like one of the last sentences in the articles that the Padres finally decided to release him and let him go on to Japan. So did you have a family at the time? Were you married, kids, or anything during that time?
Had a wife and a couple dogs at the time. I had gotten married in 2012, so I was 3-4 years being married. But yeah, so family, they set you up pretty nice in Japan for your family and everything though. Like they take care of you and your family. I tell people all the time, like if you go to Japan or go to one of these foreign countries to play baseball or play any sport really, they really act like you're supposed to be the Avengers. Like you're Marvel superheroes.
I've heard that.
They treat you like royalty too.
Yeah, they treat you so good, but like they expect you to be the Avengers.
Yeah, because Japan's one of those places where I've traveled a lot. We haven't gone to Japan yet, but I know it's like so. What's the word I'm looking for? There's not a lot of diversity in Japan, so everybody looks the same. So when you come across, a guy who's over 6 feet tall, he's black, he got a beard, like. they think you're somebody, and they treat you completely different. I've seen the videos of people that go out there, and the culture. I mean, we saw wasn't Stephon Marbury? Did he play in Japan or was it China?
He played China.
He played in China.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Loved
stayed
him.
over there.
But he loved it too.
He's a legend.
Yeah, I think they hung his jersey up or something like that too.
Yeah.
He's got a statue in a gym.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I want to speak on, since we're talking about Japan, I had this question that I only knew one guy, my old coach. He played in Japan for a little bit, but tell me what the difference is. Is like, what do you like on the field, like baseball? Like what's the difference between Japanese and MLB?
There's just like little subtle differences. It's not like huge differences, because I tell people all the time, at the core of it, baseball is the same no matter where you go.
Yeah.
Right. Like you get 27 outs. Like you got to get 27 outs. At the end of the day, you got to hit the ball, you got to throw the ball. Like at the end of the day, like, whoever does it better wins normally. But it's just like subtle game planning differences. Like they play a lot more small ball because, unlike over here, like everybody's trying to take you deep as a pitcher. So you're like scared. You're not more scared to make mistakes, but mistakes can hurt you a lot more here compared to over there. Where over there, they're setting guys up to get to those guys that are going to hurt you. So it's a lot of old school baseball, and it works so well. But you just have to be conscious of it, and just like little defensive maneuvers. Like I feel like they're a lot more fundamental because they over harp on fundamentals. Like it's quantity over quality over there.
Yeah.
Over here, we're more quality over quantity. You know what I mean? So if you take 10, 15 good swings, shut it down. Over there, they can take 100 swings and be like, oh, well, you need to take 100 more. It's like, like these dudes are tired, swinging. Like I've seen guys tired, like arms, legs giving out, dropping on one knee, like hitting buckets of balls. And they're just like, you got to keep going. I'm like, these dudes are out here dying. Like this is not good form. Like they're not going to have no success with what they're doing right now. But I was like, whatever.
So if we took the NPB versus MLB, like just the absolute best of both right now, even giving them Shohei, like who do you think will win?
That's going to be a really close game. I don't
know. If we could ever give them our best versus their absolute best.
Are we giving our best, like the DR and everything too?
Yeah. We get to keep the DR. We get to keep. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's why I didn't say just USA versus Japan. Is MLB versus DPB.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be very, very close because people slip and sleep on like some of their guys that are the top guys that don't even want to come here. They don't realize some of the guys don't even want to come over here.
Yeah.
Like I played with a couple
they're
guys
good.
Like
they're fine
MVP,
over there.
That were MVPs over there and like balled out and like got scouted to come over here. We're getting offered $20-30 million to come over here. And they were just like, we're going to stay at home. Like, you know what I mean? And balled. So I think it would be very close. I'd give the U.S. the hand slightly just because we are getting everybody. And like, there's so much talent and like so much of a bigger pool that we have to pull from too, compared to them.
Yeah.
But like their top guys, like you see it in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
They've won more World Baseball Classics than anybody else. Like there's a reason. Like,
they just beat us. They just beat us in the last championship one. So I mean,
those guys, those dudes
but that
are filthy. But
that was us. That was with us without Puerto Rico and the DR.
But that's what I'm saying. Like even still, like you see, they had to play the Puerto Rico and DR too.
Yeah,
they smacked them too. Like, you know what I mean? Like their top guys over there, like, are fantastic. Like, I mean, you look at the top guys that have just come over here and played, and how well they're playing over here. You look at they've all dominated. You look at Seiya, you look at Imanagana, you look at Senga. Like those are guys that were on their team. Like, and nobody's like.
So let me ask you this. This is another, just more culturally related. So I don't know if you remember, we were younger, we were kids. Gary Sheffield made a comment. You probably know what I'm talking about. Gary Sheffield made a comment and he said he feels like you either got to be on the field and got to be the man as a black man playing baseball, or you're not at all. And he said, look at the bench. How many of us are coming off the bench? And I thought about that. And I was like, dang, I don't know any, like, at that time, so I was like, man, and it's still to this day, it's not.
I
Do
was
you
gonna
feel
say,
like
look at
that?
it now.
Yeah.
Look at it now.
And it's like that way now. And it's like that kind of with the Japanese players also too. It's like nobody's really, whenever they bring somebody, we go get somebody from over there, they're being a dude. They don't really come out of the bench, you know what I'm saying? Unless they're a reliever or whatever. But other than that, they are. But do you still feel like that it's that way for sure? That was my question mainly for being a black baseball player.
We talk about it on my podcast all the time with the guys we have on there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's how, like, you feel. That's how it's always, like, you've always
Yeah.
felt. Like,
Like
I
the
mean,
good
I
old
feel
boys
like,
club, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
mean,
I
but
think.
you
Go
feel.
ahead.
I mean, just look at just like the culture in America to an extent.
Yeah.
Like, if you do anything as a black man in this country, like, you feel like you have to be the man or you don't get noticed, right? But then if you
Mm-hmm.
take it too far, then you become like too confident
Yeah.
or cocky or whatever else,
Yeah.
and it looks bad. So it's a thin line. It's like you're either nobody or you're too much of somebody. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
crazy how that
So
works because.
is it? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I guess
Is
that's
it
just
like
crazy how
that
it is.
in like as far as the business aspect of it goes? Because we know that culturally, black people are very different. No matter how anybody in America wants to slice it, people view us differently. And so, like you said, walking that thin line in the professional side of baseball, it's like, do you feel? I'm trying to think the best way to word this, but like, I want to express my blackness, but I also don't want them to think that I'm that type of black person. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, 100%.
I have to represent myself in a way so that I can still play. I can get paid. I can feed my family. Like, is that still very much a thing too?
No, 100%. I mean, you look at it. I mean, you take the best black athletes in every sport. Do you feel like they're all like that's 100% them? Like what you see on TV all the time. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you look at LeBron, you look at KD. I mean, KD, it shows a little bit more because of his naps a lot of times, but that's all right. But I mean, but you look, I mean, Steph and all those guys. You think that's like really them at the house? Like, you know what I
No.
mean? Like if they're at the crib with their boys and stuff, you know what I mean? We're completely different. But
You got to put on a mask.
it's a mask, but it's also like how much do people want to see of you too? Because you almost feel like if you're hired in certain situations, like you're hired to play a certain role too, right? And so you're like, okay, like I know this is the job. Like how long do I have to do this? Or how much of me do they really want to see that makes them happy? Because I know how much I gave before and that's gotten me here, but how much more do they want to see? Because like you see now, as times have changed and evolved, people want you to express more of yourself, but still you get judged for expressing too much of yourself,
Yeah. It
which
comes with a
like you
cost, for
can't
sure.
exactly, you know what I mean? So I can honestly say when I was first coming up in baseball, like I completely felt like that, like, hey, like I need to do such and such to fit in and maybe get further in my career because this might look better to such and such and maybe it would help. And as I got older and realized that it didn't because it didn't make me happy, and then I changed being trying to find happiness myself and then dealing with the repercussions of that. But like I've always told people, if you're doing something you love to do and it makes you happy, and if it's not truly hurting anybody else, then nobody else should have a problem with it. And if they do, they should have the balls to at least like tell you what their issue is, and then you can have a conversation and work on it, or you can both just go your separate ways. I mean, I feel like that's fair. You know what I mean? So once I figured that out, and I was like, you know what, like I gotta just wake up and be happy every day. Like I can't worry about like if I look great to somebody else at this point. Like especially when it comes to these front offices and stuff, because they're gonna do whatever they want to anyway. You know what I mean? I started just living.
I
I
don't
started
know.
living my life, man, and my career honestly took off more after that because I was like, again, same thing that we started the conversation off with. Started just putting my head down and worrying about what I was doing and enjoying what I was doing, and then everything else started coming with it, man. That's trusting the man upstairs to, bring that into me and realize that before it was too late. Like you said, other guys, they realized that after they've gotten out of the game, they're like, man, I should have changed this. I could have been like this. And luckily I was still in it to hang around a lot longer to hopefully be a positive light and give some of these other guys the same game and help them get to this point before I did. You know what I mean? Hopefully they get to it when they're like 22, 23, 24 instead of waiting until like I got my debut when I was 28. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know if played with the guy or not, but to that point, somebody who who I view from a viewer standpoint, don't seem like they care what people thought about him was Strowman. Like, I mean, he wearing a do-rag and everything. He didn't care underneath the cap.
I feel like he plays both sides of the field too, though. You know what I mean?
Does?
So, like, he does it as an entertainer, but he does it as intrinsically him too, because like you see all the stuff he has going on. You know, you see the shoes, the gloves.
Yeah.
You know, you see the dances and hops and stuff. Like,
yeah,
it's him, but it's also
it's a little him turned up. You're saying?
You know what I mean? It's a bit much to a certain extent, but again, we're in the entertainment business too, so people are gonna pay to see that. So you're paying to see that too, and he knows it. I mean, he's smart. Man went to Duke, like I said, like, he knows what he's doing, and he's good. He's been able to capitalize off of it. He's been able to make a lot of things happen with it. I mean, you even look how he went back to the Yankees at this point, and the whole thing behind that, which was marketing for him in the Yankees, with him and the whole Cashman thing to start with. You know what I mean? Cashman. I'm not going to the Yankees unless Brian Cashman apologizes to me. Is that not playing towards the entertainment aspect of it? Like, you couldn't really just keep that behind closed doors with the agent to a certain point. You'd be like, hey, like, you know, I want to come there. I like being in New York, but like, hey, like, man to man, like, you know what I mean? So he knows the game too.
Do you think baseball needs more of that though? Like, maybe not to that degree, but it does seem like we're trending in this direction where baseball is becoming more entertaining. Guys can express themselves a little bit more, kind of like golf. You know what I'm saying? Like, golf was the country club. I feel like baseball to America was very much, we don't want our game changed at all. And now you're seeing guys being able to come out and express themselves. But I think it obviously is getting more viewership because unless you're an athlete, unless you grew up playing baseball, unless you love baseball, most people think baseball is boring. Most people do.
Exactly.
You know, unless you love sports like we do, most people think it's a boring sport because they don't understand the dynamic of it. But when you have that type of stuff mixed into it, obviously it draws a crowd. It's entertainment, like you said. But do you think baseball needs more of that? Like, do you like to see that? You know, guys are being more expressive. Guys aren't necessarily like. I mean, you still got the Yankees where guys can't have a fucking beard if you play for New York, which is insane to me. But that's just one of their traditions.
I think that we have to. It's another thin line. It's a fine line, because do you make it so entertaining that you lose the core values of what baseball is? Because like, we're changing all these rules and stuff, and I don't know if it's helping or hindering the game. Like, it's getting more viewers, but more guys are getting hurt. The quality of baseball, I feel like, isn't as good as it used to be to a certain extent. Not that it's not good baseball, but now everybody's just focused on hitting home runs and strikeouts. It's not trying to play the game of baseball where it's like, hey, let's get this guy over. Chess moves between the managers and between hitters and pitchers. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we're going to just stack the lineup with these guys and you go figure it out, because your analytics are bad against this guy, instead of just being like, hey, like, how do you feel today?
I mean, one of our co-hosts brought it up the other day. This was like maybe a few weeks ago. Gary brought it up of like, he sent this thing and he was like, bro, the amount of, there's basically a home run in every game now.
Oh, more. I feel like it's more than that.
The amount of home runs being hit is insane. And I get it. It's entertainment. It's good for the game. And maybe the balls are juiced. Maybe the balls aren't juiced. I don't know if you can speak to that or not. You know, but
they're definitely. I feel like they're definitely juiced. I'm not going to speak too much into it because I mean, I don't know the science behind it, but I feel like they changed too much, especially over the years. There's not like a certain like standard. It can vary too much. And then also Major League Baseball owns the factories that the balls are made at. So, I mean, we don't really get a say in them. So it doesn't really matter what we do.
There's no third party evaluating this at all. It's all in-house.
So, and I mean, some guys even think that, you know, the balls are even more juiced when you play against certain teams. So, I mean, it all goes like,
but well, I think what people need to like just look outside of our really the only time where baseball is not entertaining we're the only country that doesn't view, or the only baseball country that doesn't view it as entertaining. Like, you go to Japan, you go to DR, you go to like, but they're also their style of playing the game is a little bit different, but a lot of the traditionalists don't want to bend to that style. Because honestly, if you stay up really late or wake up really early in the morning and watch an MPB game, like it's just different. It's faster. It's like like he said, like he was talking about earlier, they play a lot more small ball. So the small ball is, I mean, they got a lot more fast guys that are out there.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, like they were talking about on during All-Star game, like what'd you say?
It's like a walk, a bunt, or a walk, stolen base, bunt them to third, sack fly.
Yeah.
You got 2 outs already, and then you're done. Like, you know what I mean? The next guy you get out, but they scored 1 run. But that's a really quick inning if you really think about it. You know what I mean?
And it's like, it's just, I think, and this is me just being a baseball fan, I think that you see football especially, they're already the top sport in America, but they're constantly trying to grow the game of football, even though some of the safety stuff gets a little bit too much, but there's also other things that they play to make the games continue to stay fast, continue to stay like expressive with people and entertaining to people. We fought against that for so long. And I feel like, although I'm not like the biggest fan of all these rules, but I mean, some of these rules are just, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was a stolen base guy, so I like some of the stuff that helps with stolen bases, even though it's making me realize like just how crazy, just insane Ricky Henderson truly was. Like, it's just, this, like we literally are helping some of the fastest guys in baseball, and they're still only getting like half the stolen bases that he got in the season. I'm just like, I don't even understand it. Like he was a freak of nature, but that's another thing. But what I'm saying is like, I think looking at some of these other cultures, these other countries like DR, like Japan, and just watch, like they play ball a lot differently. DR is probably closer to us, I think, than Japan is.
Yeah.
But it's still, why when they have other sports also in their country, they view this sport as their number one, and they're selling out every single game. Why is that?
But
why is it?
What else do they have though outside of soccer across Europe, and in some DR and all that stuff? But
I mean, they have every sport that we have. It's not as.
Well, I guess Japan just beat our 21-year under in football.
They did.
You don't hear about them because they're not as glamorized, because our top players don't go over there like their top players come over here for baseball. You know what I mean? Like they have basketball leagues, they have soccer leagues. I went to a bunch of soccer games and basketball games when I played in Japan. And the basketball is not bad, but it's just like, it's not, the guys aren't as tall. Like they're not able to bring as many guys over like we are from them. You know what I mean? If there's a good tall like basketball player in Japan and he's Japanese, we're going to take him to, we're going to snag him up. But you know what I mean? Like you look at all the European basketball players now, like all their best guys are now being like, hey, like we're going to go play in France, or we're going to go play in Australia, or we're going to go play in the Spanish league for a year or two when we're 16 and 17. And then when we turn 18, like NBA.
Well, we do this.
No,
we technically do this. We technically
NBA right now or European,
I mean, we technically do the same thing with the Caribbean guys with baseball, because they decide that they're good enough at like 16, and then they'll sign with
go to an academy.
They'll go to the academy, and then they'll end up in the major leagues in no time.
So what was your biggest culture shock going over to Japan? Like, what was the one thing that was like, oh shit, I'm not in America anymore? Obviously, just looking around, but
I mean, looking around first of all, but I think taking the trains and stuff. I think that was the first thing, because those were so like awesome. Like I don't understand how we don't have them here. Efficient. They need to make them. Yes, so efficient. So
like
efficient.
In Europe too.
So efficient, and they were so fast. They were so clean. They were so tight. Like, and again, like the prices never changed either. Like they were the same price every day. Like you could get the same ticket every day. You could change the ticket at any time. And like that was the craziest thing to me, because I was like, why in the world do we have to, like, our flights change every 5 minutes? Like your flight prices change. Your train tickets probably change like every time, like you look at them too. Like to travel anywhere, gas prices change from one state to the next. Like, you know what I mean?
Nothing's
like,
consistent.
No, but like over there, it was like the train. Like if this ticket's $300 to go over here. It's $300 on Monday. It's $300 on Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my
300 bucks
biggest
no
thing.
matter.
When I was in Europe, it's like when you see a price on something that says it's $5, it's $5. There's no
It's five.
tax. It's just $5. That's what you're spending. Like if
Yes.
it says 12, whatever, 75 cents, that's what you're spending.
Oh, and how good
so
the
yeah.
food was. How good and how fresh and how healthy the food felt over there.
Did you eat at a
Like,
7-Eleven?
Yes, all the time. There's
I've heard
three
like
of them,
that's the place
bruh,
to go.
Gas. That place is gas. Bro. Gas.
Like,
But like just
I
the
heard,
food
I heard,
over there.
I heard a teriyaki burger from McDonald's was really good. That's what I always thought.
McDonald's has a whole bunch of different stuff too. They have like shrimp burgers and stuff too, but like just the food over there, like I went to a lot of like you saw more like mom and pop restaurants popping around, like people that own their own restaurants compared to like how you see more franchises here. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't take as much there. But like there, like the food, no matter where you went, almost is like, hey, if they ran out of food, they were out. Compared to like America, it's like, hey, if we run out of food, we'll just go to the store right here, get some
we'll
more.
get some.
Doesn't matter. Like we'll figure out a way to make some more just so we can make some more money. Where over there, it's like more
It's close,
like they
close
thought,
for the day.
yeah, they're done. Like this is what we plan on making. This is how much we have. This is how fresh it is. Like if it's gone, it's
Yeah.
gone. If it's not. And like I would see places
Yeah.
shut down at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Like there's one ramen spot that was like right beside my apartment there, and literally every day I would walk by, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get some ramen from here today. And then like I'd walk by and it'd be like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and they'd be closed. I'm like, what in the holy hell happened? Like they were sold out. And then like the next day, like I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go earlier. They wouldn't even be open yet till like 12. I'm like, all right, well I gotta wait. And then I'd come back doing all my stuff from the day at like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, sold out again. I'm just like, bro, like, this is unbelievable. Like that was how most of the places were. Like a lot of restaurants that I loved going to, they would just be like randomly closed at like different times throughout the day. And I'd just be like, I'd have to call my translator. I'm like, yo, what's this say? Like, and show them like the picture, like a FaceTime. I'm like, oh, they ran out of food. What?
Got to come first thing in the morning, man. Because there's also, speaking of culture, there's a black guy who I found, it was like some article Vice or somebody did up, like, but he moved out there like 20, 30 years ago. And he's got a restaurant, and it's like one of the #1 restaurants in like the city that he's in. I can't remember what kind of food he made, but he's just a black American. He moved out there, loved the food, and he was like, I'm gonna stay out here and I'm gonna do my thing.
There's a few, because in Tokyo, there's a few. I went to a few restaurants in Tokyo because of the same thing. I had saw them on Instagram or somebody had told me like, hey, like this guy that was from America, this black guy from America, like built a restaurant over here. You should go try it out, blah, blah, and like just introduce yourself. Because I mean, obviously, there's not that many of us over there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, for sure, like pull
We're
up.
gonna find
Like,
you. Yeah.
he's like, oh snap, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I play baseball. I'm like welcome. Like, hey, this is what we do. Like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, like, and it was like, again, it's the taste of home because they see you. Like, it's a little, the food gets a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't care what people say. If you feel like you're at home and you feel comfortable, that food tastes a little bit better. Something extra goes into that just a little bit. But
You'll be back for sure. So after 4 years in Japan, right?
three at first. I came back in 2019 with the Brewers and played with the Brewers that year, and then went back again in 2020. So bouncing back and forth.
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, obviously, is the goal to stay in the MLB? But if an opportunity presents itself where it's kind of the same situation, like maybe back when you first went, that you'd go back, or you kind of start trying to stay grounded here in America?
Oh, I'm home. I'm good. I'm good being home.
Yeah.
The career's almost done at this point. You know, the transition. I didn't know if I was going to play this year. I tell all these people this year was like, it hasn't gone great, obviously. And I just found out, honestly, that like I've been kind of playing through a lot of injuries this year. So it kind of makes sense why the numbers aren't as good as they were last year. But I didn't have a lot of interest at first. So I didn't think I was going to play. So I was starting to transition anyway. So it just kind of like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long career, man. 17 years. Some guys are lucky to make it 17 months. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
So that's
I've been completely blessed. Yeah, I've been completely blessed. Like I've been, like I said, I hope that I've been able to help other guys along the way. That's kind of been the goal the past couple of years, is like enjoying these moments and just hoping that I've made an impact on other guys, to hopefully that, you know, they can carry on, like I said, the love of the game. Because like I said, I feel like that's missing a lot in what we're seeing nowadays. Like guys just want to get the bag, and you don't see guys truly just going out and enjoying just being out on the grass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just going out there and just being like, hey, it's a beautiful sunny day out here to just play some baseball. Like,
You
know
gotta
what
have
I mean?
fun, man.
So
exactly.
From an African American standpoint, you know, I was a black baseball player, and I try to get so many more people into the game. Like, have you? I guess a couple questions. Have you tried to in any sort of way get more African Americans in the game, and like, do you see the difficulty of trying to get people that look like us into the game?
Both. I do see the difficulty. There's a huge discrepancy in it because, you know, again, I feel like there's a new young wave coming up and you see more of us playing and getting in it, and they're starting to attract more black baseball players. And I don't know if that's a conscious effort. I hope it's a conscious effort, but I honestly feel like back in the day, it was kind of a conscious effort not to have as many of us in there too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, like how did you feel when you played? You know what I mean? Like you felt like you had to be 3 times as good as the other guy beside you, and that's not how you should feel. You should be able to feel like, hey, if I do my job and we have the same numbers and things are fair, then
and I don't know about you, but that thought kind of started in college. Did it start for you?
It started for me, and honestly, in Little League. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it started because the Little League I was at, my dad actually got in an argument with the guys because I was supposed to make the All-Star team, and they kept me off the All-Star team because other guys were friends, and they're like, oh, well, Jay's good enough where he'll be on it next year, so he can not make it this year, blah, type thing. You know what I mean? So it started.
I'm good enough this year. Put me on it this year.
So it's kind of always been like, and I've just kind of, as I've grown up, and I've noticed things that other people don't notice. I mean, again, as a black athlete playing a predominantly white sport, you start noticing more stuff as you get older, to be like, hey, this isn't the same for me as it is for everybody else. Like, why didn't I get, the same look? Why didn't I get the same opportunity type thing, especially when it comes to baseball? But, you see in basketball, I mean, that's why I feel like guys gravitate towards basketball more, because you see a majority of basketball players being black, first of all, and you feel like there's more of an opportunity there when realistically there's not. Because there's more baseball players that get drafted. There's more spots on baseball teams, et cetera, et cetera.
The odds are more in your favor in baseball.
Exactly.
And we dominate everything, man. So if you pick up a ball and start playing, you'll eventually see that we'll start dominating.
And it's more glorified, the basketball and the football. Like, it's thrown in your face more, especially football and basketball, like where black athletes are everywhere. And so it's on TV that it's a black athlete doing. So what do they tell you? Like, you're looking at, like, I'm growing up, like, what makes me happy if I'm sitting in front of the TV all the time and I'm not outside actually doing those things is, hey, like, sports are on all the time. What sports? Baseball, basketball, and football. But if I'm looking to find somebody that's like me, then I'm looking at basketball and football 9 times out of 10. Have I tried to do it bring more people and help? Of course. I mean, I've tried my best. I've talked to guys. I talked to, I have my baseball camp every year. We canceled it this year, which I'm upset about, but that's just because the weather, it was like 100 or something degrees in South Carolina this week. So I wasn't trying to have kids out there. Like, there's no point. There's no point to do that to kids. Even as fun as it is, like, learning the fundamentals of baseball should be taught in a safe environment. So, but what I try to do is bring more awareness, and then also for my camp, I take 15 to 20 kids from the Boys and Girls Club, and they get to come to my camp for free each year too. So I try to get them and try to start kids off on the right foot. And
clap it up for that.
And then any of the kids, like, any of the guys that I've come up with through the minors and stuff, any team I've been on, like, those guys gravitate towards me as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys gravitate towards me because I'm a veteran, but especially like the younger black guys gravitate towards me. And I try to give them as much information as I can to help them. Because, like I said, I want to see them get to the point that I'm at earlier, so they can have a longer career and enjoy it, and then decide what they want to do with it.
Yeah, I'm not even like I wasn't a baseball player growing up. I played with his dad coached a team, but the baseball just wasn't my sport. I played football, basketball, did all the other stuff. But I even tell
Yeah,
kids all the time, with parents and anything when we're out and about, I'm like, get into baseball. Also play basketball, play football, play all the sports. I think number one, every kid should be a dual or multi-sport athlete.
100%.
But like you said, the basketball, man, it's like you have to look at the comps here. It's like, okay, this year in the majors alone, just within the MLB organization, there will be over, I don't know, several thousands of kids that will have an opportunity to play professional baseball, whether that's single A, double A, whatever league you're in. I tell kids all the time, in basketball, there's been less than 5,000 human beings to ever step foot on NBA court since inception. So, I mean, do you realize how slim of an opportunity that is? And I don't want to ever, knock some kid's dream, but sometimes I tell kids you got to be realistic.
You got to be
Like
realistic.
if you're not the best kid in the state, the best kid in the county, the best kid at your school, more than likely than not, you're not going to the league. And you got to learn that early on, and then use those skills to transition to something else.
Yeah.
Or go to college, have fun, but just know the league is it's tough. Like in professional sports, I think a lot of guys don't realize it's a business, man. And you've got to, like you said, keep your head down. You've got to know your role. Like we got a buddy, Monte's brother. He's coming up on his 9th year in the NBA. Now he's been G League roster, 10-day contract. He's not a star-studded. He's not a guy that's a top guy, but he's figured out a way to keep a job for almost a decade. And those are the guys that you have to do. Kids don't realize that like scoring 20 points in a game isn't always going to be the differentiating factor to get you a contract. But yeah, man, I think that's dope that's what you do, especially 15 to 20 kids, man, and introducing them to the game of baseball, even if they don't play it till the end of time, but at least introducing them to athletics in general and the opportunity to look up to somebody who's played it at the highest level imaginable. But I got a question that I want to ask as we get close to kind of the end here. A couple questions. I'm sure Brandon's got a few too. So like Shaq, we went to high school together. He played for the Lakers. And then when he was in Arizona, he played against LeBron. So have you ever had a moment? I know for him that was like I know I got to play defense, but right now I'm locking up LeBron James. Like, has there been a moment in your career where you're on the mound and you're like, bro, I'm about to throw a pitch to XYZ? Like, has that happened to you yet? Or
My first, when I got not my debut, but that season I debuted in 15, I faced the Dodgers that year, and I faced, I think it was Howie Kendrick, Adrian Gonzalez, and I forgot the last guy I faced. But like, I played in winter ball in Mexico so much. Like, I knew all of Adrian's friends. I knew his brother. I played with his brother. I knew how great of a legend he was in Mexico and just in the league in general, right? So that was my first, like, oh my God, like,
I can't
I'm
screw this
facing
up.
Adrian Gonzalez. Like, it wasn't I can't screw this up. It's like when he acknowledged me too, it was something like, all right, like he knows who I am too. It's kind of like that moment where like Shaq knows LeBron, LeBron knows Shaq, and it's
Yeah.
like, all right, mano y mano, like respect versus respect, like head to head type thing. So I think that was we nodded each other, and I was like, oh, he does actually remember me from probably somebody in Mexico or something like that, because like my Mexico career is pretty legit too. Like I'm proud of like what I've done in Mexico for the most part down there. I had some fun and got to play a lot of good baseball, but like facing him that first year was just like
Did he
crazy. And then
feel?
facing Harper too. Facing Harper was pretty tight too. That was
Yeah.
pretty sick.
Did he feel big? I've heard from other pitchers that he like when he gets up to the plate, Gonzalez, that he like because he has like kind of the straight up, almost like intimidating
But
stance.
yeah, he looks huge when he like first up because he's just big and he's like spread out, like he takes up the whole box. Like,
He doesn't. I don't think he bends his knees at all,
yeah,
like
it's crazy,
even slightly. Like he's just locked out. Like he wants that big strike zone too for some reason. I mean, most guys want to shrink it up. He don't care. That's pretty cool. That's a good one, Adrian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I guess along those same lines, what was your I guess Japan or here? What's your favorite, your most memorable like K? I guess like from a player that you was like, all right, I'm gonna remember that one.
Yeah. I've had so many over the years. I've had so many good ones over the years too. I've had so many really good ones. I think one of the coolest ones I've had was when I was the setup guy in Japan, the 2 years that we clinched the league championship. Both years, I think I struck out the last hitter of the inning I pitched, and then leading into like our closer coming in, I think they were both close games, so it was really exciting
Yeah.
both times. Like those were like, I remember what specifically we were in Hanshin at the Koshin Stadium, and the inning was crazy because the first guy got on. I think it was like I walked him or like a bloop hit or something, like an infield hit or something crazy where I was like, dang, I was like, all right, and we were only up one. And like you said, like in Japan, they play small ball. So I was like, this dude's stealing second for sure. Like, he's
Yeah.
stealing second. And I ended up picking him off. And then I ended up like striking out like the next two guys in the second. Like my last strikeout, I think was like probably like this far off the plate or something like that. And the dude called it a strike. And it was like the loudest roar that I gave, and then loudest eruption from the stands too, because like Hanshin and Hiroshima are like rivals back then, so like and still are to a certain extent. And so like the whole crowd just goes nuts. And so that was one of my most memorable ones. Like I think that video is still out on YouTube somewhere. Like that was probably one of my favorite ones.
That's dope.
Nah, that's pretty cool, man. I heard you say a little bit something more fun. I heard you say that that you went over to some soccer games, some basketball games. All right. If you was just stay in Japan, do you feel like you could have played in the pro basketball league out there?
Over there, I tell people ask me that all the time.
Get a couple buckets.
And I hate that I tell people that like I probably could have. Because I honestly feel like I probably could have. Just knowing like my skill level and how hard I work at it, how much I love basketball too.
Yeah.
I feel like if they would have gave me like probably like
Give
3 months give me like 3 months to get ready, get my shot right and whatnot. Like seeing how they played basketball, I'm like, I could probably play over in Japan.
Yeah.
You mentioned throwing one pretty low to the plate that was called a strike. What are your thoughts on officiating currently in baseball? That seems to be a really hot button topic that has been. I mean, it's and I think social media has exacerbated it to a degree. I mean, because I'm not an umpire, so I don't even know. Like I tell guys, I don't know what it looks like when I'm standing back there. So I don't know how hard or how easy it is to call a ball or a strike. It just seems like this year has been the most egregious year in baseball from fans that I've heard. Like, do you think it's a problem?
I think this year has been, I think, a little worse than normal, I would say, honestly. I don't know. I think a lot of the umpires now are so worried, like you said, like we talked about before, not focusing on what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're worried about the robot strike zones and stuff, and they're trying to be too perfect that they're missing so many pitches. Like, it's been a lot of missed pitches, like middle pitches or balls that are like inside the zone by a couple balls that have been missed. I mean, even for me, like I've had 2 or 3, like I said, I got that one in Japan, but I've had a couple this year where like they were strikes that they called balls that changed whole counts around that ended up costing me runs and almost costing us games like later on, just because I feel like umpires are human, but at the same time they get tricked and then they're so focused on not making a mistake that they're making more mistakes this year. And
at this point in the season, you can't really be making those mistakes. I mean, you guys just passed us, unfortunately. In the AL Central, so, but yeah, it definitely seems like this year it's been not the greatest. But again, I think that social media, to a degree, it just makes things worse. I feel it's always been a problem.
Social media always
now
makes
you can post
worse.
a video every single week, and you can say, "See, this is happening all the time now," and so now everybody thinks it's a problem. In reality, it's been a problem forever.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just seen more.
All right, 100%. So. We always do a hypothetical at the end of every show, and I hope this one comes out pretty well because I'm kind of interested to hear your this is a special hypothetical, okay? This is a Jay special.
And I got a question after this, and we'll close it out. But I think Gary will appreciate it. Go ahead.
So World Series on the line.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the mound. You have your choice of who you want. The 3 batters you can come up. The first batter don't matter. And on the second part, the second batter doesn't matter. So who would you want? This is to win the game. you got to close it out. You either can have, I guess, I don't even know. I guess we'll go with Pedroia. So we'll go the Red Sox, Pedroia, Man Ram, and Poppy. Those three, or you can have whatever two, and then Bonds are coming up. Who would you rather face? Game on the line.
I have to throw to all of them.
You gotta pitch to all of them.
Because I'm saying, like, I would definitely go Giants and whoever, and then face Bonds and just walk Bonds. But like, if I gotta throw to Bonds, and is the game tied? Or are we up? Or are we down? Or what is it? Are we
up
tied?
by you're
we're up by one.
Up by one.
Oh, I'm throwing the Bonds.
Throwing the Bonds?
Throwing the Bonds.
Throwing the Bonds.
The other two, like you said, I'm getting them out. I'm throwing the Bonds, mano a mano, and seeing what happens.
He might tie. If he ties it, he ties
That's
it.
fine. That's fine.
If he don't, it's a storyline.
Exactly.
ESPN, baby.
So you ain't gonna go with the other three? Get the.
I want to face Bonds. That's the main thing. I want to face Bonds. And now that I know that we're up one, like, I'd rather face Bonds. Like, the other three, like, that's a great little order to face, and they could do some damage to me too. But the opportunity to face Barry Bonds in a lifetime would be like, the two guys I would honestly I would love to face is Bonds and Griffey.
There you go.
Bonds and Griffey.
Dominique knows who my hero was.
Griffey's my all-time hero. Man.
So this is something, before you get to your question, Dominique, don't forget your question. But this is something I did want to speak on. Like, I feel like MLB or whoever, whatever it was, did such a great job in the 90s marketing Ken Griffey Jr. He was the kid. That's why I felt like we've had African-American or just even non-African-American, but mostly African-American athletes in baseball that we could have done that with to push the game further, especially for us. But I don't know if it's an MLB issue or maybe it is just people going to.
Oh, you know what it is.
They get to make those choices, right? So,
yeah. Don't you feel like you grew up in the 90s with me? Like, you feel like Griffey was everywhere.
I played
got
baseball,
guys now
so
that are flashy.
those are the reasons I played baseball. Griffey, Bonds, Barry Larkin, Terry Pendleton, Tony Gwynn. You know what I mean?
Like I feel like
Dave Stewart. You had Ozzie Smith. You know,
I feel like
Ricky Henderson, like you said. Like, the list goes on, and they did a better job, like you said. Like, of putting them out there.
There's kids who don't watch baseball, but Tony Gwynn is talked about so much that they know who Tony Gwynn is.
Exactly.
You hear horror stories of him to this day, and dude ain't played in over 2 decades.
Okay, like Dominique, not that big of a baseball fan, and so if you do, maybe I'll look stupid, but like, did you know? But like, who we were talking about earlier, the Upton brothers, BJ and Justin.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
You didn't? So you heard
them,
but like even like that those brothers to like. When they both drafted number one, or was it just Justin?
Well, I think it was one. One of them. I think Justin was 1 and BJ was 2.
Yeah,
and they did a little piece on them, but they should have did more on their careers as they were going together. But they tried to here and there, but they didn't do a good job with them.
Yeah, like pushing that storyline.
I think baseball push the
storylines. They are. They're terrible. They're terrible at storylines. First of all, they are. But second of all, like you said, they pick and choose where they want these storylines to go. And a lot of times, the storylines over the past couple of years has been growing the game outside of America. You see the RBI program, but you see the RBI programs and stuff like that, and they had them there, but they weren't pushing them like they should have been. But now, from me talking to have you guys talked to Cheats from the Baseball Mixtape?
No,
you guys need to check.
He wants to get on. We've been going back and forth.
Cheats
knows his shit too, man.
Yes, Cheats is legit. Like, talk to Cheats. Like, Cheats is, and he'll get you more info on like how they're pushing the game more, and they're doing a better job now.
He got too many. He has too much knowledge.
There's
That trivia is.
Hey,
I'm just like, I don't.
Cheats is on it, bro. Cheats is on it. I give a shout out to Cheats. Like, hey, but he'll like they're growing the game in a great way. Like they're doing a lot, and I feel like MLB, because of the push from other people wanting to see more of us in baseball, that they're starting to finally pour some more money and pour some more resources in those areas. Like the Players Alliance, like RBI
we've got the
program.
RBI here in Kansas City and the inner city, and it's definitely. I still don't think they're doing the best job of growing the game, but they're working on it.
Exactly.
Because I would love to see more kids involved with it, because kids don't understand the opportunities that baseball can give you. Outside of not even going to major leagues, but you can still play and make a good living.
There's so many opportunities to get paid.
In Japan, man, playing in Mexico, you can do whatever.
But like you said, you can play in Japan, you play in Mexico, you play in all these other places. Or if you just love baseball and you get into it and you actually enjoy it, like once you actually start playing it and like immersing yourself in it, I feel like people love baseball after that, right? And so when you do, like you said, there's not only opportunities to play, but you can be in the front office, you can be a grounds crew guy, you can be a clubhouse guy, you can be all these different, there's jobs all over, ticket office, well, to keep you around the game, to figure out if that's what you want to do too. There's different ways to do it, but it's just like you said, like it's getting
exposure
these kids
to that
immersed.
and understanding.
Exactly.
Because our boy he's a scout for the Phillies, and he loves it. He just had like 5 guys that he scouted all year that they drafted. That's a rewarding feeling right there.
100%.
It's like, okay, I can't play the game right now. I can't play the game at a high level, but I can now bring in and usher this new generation. Kind of like what you just said earlier, of like you're kind of feeling like you're on the tail end of your career. Wasn't sure if you're going to play this year, but at the very least, I can still usher in and hopefully give these guys more game and more knowledge so that they can get to where I'm at a lot sooner. So my final 2 questions. Number 1, what's your favorite ballpark to play in?
To play in, always Oracle's still up there. Oracle's definitely up there. Also Toronto. I wish they had grass instead of turf, and that would probably be my favorite. But then from just pure scenery wise to play in, Pittsburgh. PNC on top, like if you have the overhead shot of that, like at night or even during the day, like late, like early evening, and like you see like over it where like the river's coming across and like the sunsets come, bro, it's one of the most beautiful places of all. And they keep that place immaculate. Like, the place is awesome. Like, but all big league ballparks, they keep them pretty crisp and clean and like things of that nature. I think I've played at every stadium or been to every stadium but the new Yankee Stadium in Houston. So I haven't been to those 2, but I think I've been to every other single one. And I think I have a picture of all of them. So eventually I can look back and like kind of like remember and reminisce on those days and pick which one was actually like truly the best. Like I haven't gone through any of them till the story's done. Like this chapter hasn't closed yet. So I haven't gone back and looked at them yet.
And then you said you have a son. How old's your son?
I have 2. I have one in Japan and he's 5. He'll be 6 in December. And my baby boy that's in here right now, he just turned a year a couple weeks ago, and he was actually in the hospital in the NICU for 166 days last year. So I was back and forth between the team and the hospital all last year. So he was born 14 and a half weeks early last year. So
is he good now?
He was getting there. He's he's still on oxygen, still got a feeding tube in his belly, but hopefully he'll be off those and by the end of the year. But he's getting big and just as happy as he can be.
Yeah, so it's a blessing.
Blessings, man. All blessings.
Yeah. Well, so my last question is, because you spoke earlier, we spoke about golf. You said you play a lot of golf.
Yeah.
We have a co-host who, at this point, I think he might be trolling, but he just absolutely hates the game of golf. And he's a big baseball guy too. But I mean, he's just like, it's a ball that don't move. It's this and that. And I try and compare the differences. Compare it to baseball a little bit of like, obviously baseball, swinging a baseball is hard. Hitting a pitch is probably the hardest thing to do in any sport. But I would venture to say, and I want to get your thoughts, in my opinion, golf is a top 5 hardest sport to learn to actually be good at.
Yeah.
I think it may be like top 3, honestly. Like you can go play basketball, you can play football, you can learn the fundamentals, but golf is like shooting par is hard. My best score is like an 83. Like I've never I haven't even broke the 80s yet, and usually I'm like in the 90s. So I've been trying for years now, or not about a year, to get him to understand like golf is hard. It is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
So have you taken him to go play golf?
So that's one of the content pieces we want to do, and I'm like, I'll give you 20 strokes. I'll give you 20 strokes, and
Just let him go out there. Just let him go out there. Just first time, tell him he can't quit the round whatsoever. It doesn't matter.
Finish every hole.
He can't quit. He's got to finish every hole. It doesn't matter where the ball goes, anything. He's got to finish every hole and look at his score after. And then he's either going to get addicted to it or hate it. One of the two. And either way, like, you're going to be like, hey, like, it's harder than it looks, isn't it? Because the main thing about golf that I think makes it so much more difficult than every other sport is how lonely it is when you're going bad. Like baseball, like you're going bad, but like your teammates can still pick you up, right? Most sports, like your teammate can still pick you up, except for tennis and golf.
Yeah, there's no teams.
And normally, like in tennis, like you might have doubles every now and then, but like golf, like literally, you make a bad shot, like it's all you. And like you can hit this thing as flush as you want, and then the wind just takes it somewhere too, and you're just like, oh, I didn't play the wind right.
And not only are you playing bad golf, but your boy who you're playing with is having a career day. That makes it even worse. It's like, I'm happy for you, dog, but I'm over here struggling off the tee box.
Do nothing about
can't get in the fairway, can't putt. I mean, it's the worst feeling ever.
That's definitely a different concept I didn't think about. You can go 0 for 4 in baseball and still win a game. Like
you shoot 10 over par, you ain't doing nothing about that.
Literally, I watched. We went to the PGA Championship. This was in 2022. Mito Pereira was leading Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on the 18th hole. All he had to do was bogey or better, and he lost 2 balls. He hit 2 balls out of bounds to shoot a double bogey, and went from I think that year the purse for number 1 was like $2.1 million, and he dropped all the way down, I think, 3rd or 4th. So I mean, two bad golf shots cost this man $1 million.
Over
$2
$1
bad
million.
golf shots.
$2 million.
So he still won. I think he won $900,000. He won like $900K. But still, he lost like 1.2 or something like that. And I'm like, two bad golf shots. Two bad pitches won't usually cost you a day. You may they can depending on what inning.
They can depending. But like even still, like when you're playing with your boys playing golf, like 2 bad golf shots can cost you a lot of money depending on if you're gambling with them too.
Man. So, but that was it for me, man. You got any other questions, Brandon?
Nah, man. I loved it, man. This shouldn't be it, man. Yeah, we shouldn't be. Hopefully, this ain't the last time, man.
For sure. Whenever you guys want me to be on, we gotta get you. You gotta get you guys on our podcast too. We do a collab or something.
Say less.
Sure.
Absolutely, man.
Make something shake for sure.
So
you gotta get my boy on there too. You gotta get my co-host to come on and chop it up too. He's been playing for 19 years now. He's a player coach in indie ball for Lancasters.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we love it, man.
That's my dog, yeah.
So the Brushback podcast, is that all baseball or like all ball talk?
It's all ball talk. It's just us chopping it up, doing something every week, having fun, having our boys that we used to play with and some of our old coaches and like front office people, you know, the brothers from back in the day, like again, to usher in the new school of guys, you know, have the stories from the old guys. So just so they can like, you know, check out these old stories and check out the old stats from the guys that came before them and listen to their stories and understand, like I said, how hard it was. Like these guys that I have on so far should have probably gotten a little bit more opportunity. But like we said, like I feel maybe we didn't put on the superhero capes a lot of times that everybody else was expecting, and just hearing their stories and hearing them talk about their experiences maybe will let other guys know like what's necessary and, you know, what it takes. But it's all for the love of the game at the end of the day. And all these guys, you know, they kept playing, and it's just hearing stories, you know what I mean? It's enjoyable.
I love that. Maybe we can do I saw Up in Smoke and Pivot they did a podcast together. Maybe we can do a Brushback and Around the Clock.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do. We can do. Yeah, let me talk to him. Yeah, I feel like that'd be something hot. That'd be tight.
Yeah.
We travel, man. We'll bring the cameras down, man. We'll set up. We'll get everything rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
And we'll play some golf after. You know,
100%. Yeah, 100%. We can do that. That's all love, man. I appreciate you boys for sure.
Yeah, no, man. Appreciate your time, man. It's Jay Jackson, man. Best of luck on the rest of the season, man. And
Appreciate you, fellas.
They can follow. What is it? I don't have it in front of me. J Jackson. Is it or J? But it's a JX, right? JAX.
It's Jackson. Yeah, Jackson58 on IG and Twitter. The Brushback Podcast. You can look for my book coming out hopefully end of October, early November, and then just you see what the rest of the season holds, man. Hopefully, I'll still be playing for another year or two, and people can catch me on the tube or around in a city near you.
Man,
oh yeah.
Looking forward to it. I got one request. I'm gonna buy a book, but I want it signed.
I got you for sure.
Buy
Got you 100%.
I gotta get a signed copy.
No, for sure. We'll have them ready for you when we do our joint episode. We'll do the joint episode during the off season somewhere so everybody can pull up, and we'll have books for you. We'll do it. Make sure we're good.
Well, man, appreciate it as always. This is the ending of the episode of Round the Clock Podcast, man. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We're gonna get out of here.
Appreciate it.